So I want to first of all welcome all the members to this week's edition, the Chroma Roundtable. We have a lot to get through today, so I'm going to kick things off very, very quickly. I want to say a big shout out to we have Jedi Purdue Excess is on for his marketing, so I'm looking forward to that. And Luke, and we might be joined by I think Victor might be joining soon, and one or two others. I see a few guys in the audience. You're more than welcome to join, team members, if you are just listening in and want to join. But I'm going to get right down to it. So we're looking at BTC. We're looking at the January crypto rally. We've had a pretty forceful rejection as I pull open my chart here. And please excuse the bright screen. I haven't set up my dark screen for this stream. So hopefully that doesn't blind too many eyeballs. But we are going to use the bright mode screen. Yeah, this is just, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is a chart that I've posted in my channel. I also did a 4-minute video in my channel yesterday, which kind of outlines my thoughts on BTC now. And anyway, this is annotated, so I'm not going to waste your time by reading through it. But these are my current thoughts on BTC. And as per this chart, as I read things, we're currently rejecting from this kind of channel high. So there's also this weekly EMA and weekly inefficiency, which I had spoken about a number of times already, particularly this chart, which is, again, something that I posted in my channel quite a while ago, saying that this weekly inefficiency was potentially going to provide a strong bearish reaction. And lo and behold, that's exactly what we got. So I want to go to Purdue, first of all, and ask for your take on BTC. Is the January rally over? Are we seeing a rejection? Is this rejection going to last, do you think? Are we heading back to channel lows? What is your outlook on BTC here? Are you looking at the monthly open in particular? Because I know that you trade those levels from time to time. What levels do you have marked on your own chart?
Yeah, thanks for this roundtable. Basically what I'm eyeing is not per se from a technical analysis point of view, rather than let me open my chart. Sorry. Rather than waiting. Jesus, there's a lot of info on the chart. Sorry, wait. Let me grab a clean chart for now. Rather than a time-based point of view, where I think that the playbook of Trump that I posted already in my channel is that he's always like running things down from Friday until Monday, and we saw a bank holiday yesterday, so it was a delayed effect of the bigger nuke. So we have been slow bleeding basically from Saturday until the open on Sunday evening, which we see here. And now we're basically this session, the first time we open, NQ was nuking, and we see basically capitulation of all the longs that have been building up over here. So what I'm eyeing here is tomorrow we have the Trump speech into the 1 hour prior New York Open. So I guess I'm more inclined to long, not per se on like a technical level than a time-based level. What we have been seeing is that buyers are stepping in around Wednesday morning in London, and they try to front run the positive outcome of the Trump speech. So I've been sitting on my hands today, and I'm waiting for London tomorrow. I think we're gonna slow down the PA here, and I think any dip below that 88k level tomorrow is gonna give a bounce back to the 4-hour EMA 13, which is currently resting at 92k. So that's how I want
Can
to
you
play
try
it.
resetting your screen? Sorry, I think a lot of people can't see it. It's getting that error message.
Oh, sorry. Shit.
We've seen this happen before. I don't know why Discord makes it. Yeah, I can see now. Can everyone else see
Yeah.
Purdue screen? Let me know if not. Yeah, everyone says now good. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. So what I've been saying basically is that all the longs that have been building up over the weekend during that slow bleed down, got rinsed yesterday when it was still a bank holiday into the open. And today it was the first day that stocks were opening up. NQ have been nuking, and now we're finally forming some sort of base around that psychological round number 90K, which is in confluence with the 3K level for Ethereum. So I'm not really inclined to take a trade here at the moment, but I'm more leaning towards a time-based trade in London tomorrow, going into the Trump speech, which will happen tomorrow, 1 hour prior New York Open. So I'm basically waiting for this liquidity to be taken, and I think I'm gonna step in there in London because during Asia I will be sleeping anyway, and I think the tension and the rumors will start building again in London tomorrow, going into the Trump speech. People try to front run the news again, any positive outcome on the tariff situation, and I think that's where I'm gonna buy the rumor, and then I'm gonna sell the news into the Trump speech again. That's gonna be like a time window of 5-6 hours straight.
I like that. I like that. And I'm going to segue immediately into, you mentioned the Greenland situation. You mentioned the fundamentals. I want to ask Jedi about this. How are you viewing this current situation with Greenland, with Trump? Obviously, he has made it very, very clear that Greenland is on his mandate. It kind of evolved from, I think, well, certainly in my case, I wasn't necessarily taking him super seriously at the start. I thought it was just posturing maybe to try and get some kind of advantageous trade deal or tariff deal in place over, his contemporaries in the European Union. But it does look like now that he is extremely serious about it. And I think this kind of feeds into this thing that we've spoken about before, which is that Trump really cares about legacy. He cares about prestige. He wants to be remembered as the American president that, added Greenland to the map of the US. So I'm curious, what's your take on all this? How are you viewing the macro situation now? Is this something that we should be concerned about going into the remainder of the month, going into the remainder of the quarter? Because I'm cognizant, and I'm sure everyone else in this chat is cognizant of the tariff situation we got last year and how bad that was for BTC.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. It's very difficult to answer the question without sounding too silly. I think he's going to take Greenland. I don't really think he's going to stop. And the only way that doesn't happen is if Europe actually digs her heels in and says, we're not going to allow this to happen, and we'll meet you essentially on the battlefield. What that looks like, I don't know, but I think that's what we need to be worried about. What we've determined quite clearly is that Bitcoin has become very much,
Jedi, sorry to cut across you. Can you increase your volume? There is some people in the chat saying they can't hear you, or pull the mic closer, maybe.
Okay, sorry about that. So, I think, is that better, guys?
Yeah, definitely
Better?
closer to the face is better. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think what it comes down to is, how does the market view, some kind of like major confrontation between Europe and the States? Because I think that's definitely on the cards, and I think Bitcoin has definitely determined itself to be like very much at the cold face of risk on assets. This whole idea of Bitcoin being digital gold and all that kind of stuff, in my opinion, it's gone out the window. I mean, obviously, we're still early in the life cycle of what Bitcoin is, but right now we're seeing risk on and risk off, and Bitcoin is front running all of that stuff. So I think you got to be super careful. I know that Joey's been kind of like semi-trolling over the last few months in chats and saying, 35 to 55K Bitcoin. I don't think it goes that low, but I think low 80s and then kind of like high 70s is definitely on the cards. Why do I say those levels? Well, I think 1010 was a very, very serious time, and we didn't go below those levels, and I just don't see us going even below the levels that we experienced on the 10th of October. But I think that does exist as a chance. And I think for me, what am I looking out for? I just keep seeing gold and silver going to all-time highs. What does that tell you? People are shit scared, the market is shit scared, and they're all plowing into what they know has always been essentially a safe haven. And as long as those two keep going, then I think Bitcoin's going to keep doing what it's doing, and it's going to be dog shit.
So I mean, very interestingly, Joey has just jumped in the chat there and said that he is not trolling about those levels. He is deadly serious, and I'm inclined to believe him. I'm inclined to believe him. The man did a villain turn, a villain 180 from being one of the most vocal bulls in the server to being one of the. Yes, someone says someone needs to take Joey's mic away. Yeah, I agree. I agree. But I mean, are there levels at which you would be interested in it? I'm thinking like really, really high time frame here from more of an investment perspective rather than a trading perspective. Are there levels at which you would think that it's a no-brainer to just get involved with some BTC, maybe even some Ethereum?
Full disclosure, I have bids at 74K.
Okay, that was the answer I was looking for, actually. Yeah, yeah. So that would be below the low that we put in last year at the kind of the bottom of that tariff FUD.
So I think it is kind of like if we do go there and kind of what plays out according to the way that Joey's been seeing it. I think we wick pretty strongly in that area. It might even go down to frickin' 69 because everyone's kind of like making jokes about 69K. We all know it was kind of previous cycle all-time high, and it's a major number. But I think I'm comfortable with 74, and if it lands up going lower, that's fine. I'll just continue DCAing in and take it from there.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And I know, so I want to, something you mentioned there about, commodities ripping, gold and silver ripping, what effect that's going to have on the market. I want to quickly move to Osbra because I know, first of all, I know you're sick, Osbra, so thank you very much for joining us. You're a trooper. But I do want to get your take on the commodities market right now. I think gold put in an all-time high just last night. I saw a headline. What does this mean for digital gold? What does this mean for crypto? Because a lot of people are talking about this rotation, this commodities rotation, this precious metals rotation, and thus far we've kind of yet to really see it. The argument is that BTC will eventually play catch up. It's just lagging at the moment. But there's also an argument to say that maybe that's just weakness and not necessarily indicative of any strength to come. So I'm curious to get your take on this. What is your opinion on gold and silver ripping, and what does that mean for our bags?
Sure. First, something that is always good to remind people is that gold is considered a safe haven asset, not only for retail, not only for the boomers, but also for institutions, and even more important, for the central banks. Central banks have been accumulating tons of gold the last couple of years, from 2023 to 2025. I want to see if the trend is going to keep trending in 2026. But yeah, so basically everyone consider gold as the safe haven asset. Silver was like a lot of people talked about silver, but it was less popular than gold because gold is well anchored in people minds, right? And beside being safe haven, the safe haven asset that everyone wants to have, it's also the perfect asset when there is a lot of uncertainty. And what market qualifies as uncertainty is when you have a lot of tensions, and I mean like geopolitical tensions, and we see exactly what we're having right now. We have a lot of tensions between basically the two biggest superpowers. I'm talking about NATO as a whole, not just France. Don't worry, and the USA. So obviously, it was like I mean, it was quite obvious that gold would absolutely rip with such tensions. Silver is also following. I will share the chart so you just so everyone can see the performance and compare to BTC. Just give me one sec. Okay, here we are. Let me know if you can see the screen. All good, I guess.
Perfect.
So we
Yeah, yeah.
have silver on the left, we have gold in the middle, and BTC on the right. And you see that like silver and gold has been perfectly fulfilling the safe haven role despite BTC right here. I'm not even talking about crypto as a whole, but only BTC that is considered for some people the digital gold, and that is also considered by some or the same people a safe haven asset. So we can see that it's absolutely not the case. I think we have to admit and to accept the fact that Bitcoin has turned into a speculative asset. Because if it was a hedge against inflation, if it was um, the asset everyone would rush to buy when we have wars, when we have tensions, when we have escalation like we have right now, then it would be ripping up. And what we've noticed is that it just reacted exactly the same as all other speculative assets did when Trump started to threaten NATO to take Greenland, and when NATO started to reply. I mean, it dumped, like it erased the wall rally that we had from 90K to almost 98 in just a couple days, right? Following the European Union reply to Trump um, threats. So, what does it say for an investment perspective? That it's. I mean, personally, I think it's way too late to buy gold now after it did like a 3x, 4x. Same for gold. I think it's too late. But it means that as long as the tensions stay, then you'll have the commodities being under the spotlight, unfortunately. And even more unfortunate, it tells that crypto is and let's stick to BTC, but BTC is nothing more than a speculative asset than people use to like to make a bunch of money. It's not something that people trust as much as gold and silver. But at the same time, to bring a bit of nuance, I want to remind that gold and silver has been here forever, while Bitcoin is like a 10 years old asset, right? So it's not as mature as commodities. That's important to say. But for now, we fall like far away from the initial Bitcoin's purpose, that was to be the hedge against inflation, the safe haven asset, the digital gold. We can see that it's absolutely not the case. So that was the two things I wanted to talk about, both the investment perspective, but also the ideology. I think it's the right word in English, because it's not what it was meant to be. Agree or disagree, this is what the charts are saying right now.
Yeah, interesting. And someone, Blaze is asking in the chat, what do you think about copper? I'm curious if you have a take on that. It's not a chart
Yeah.
that I'm familiar with.
Uh, I don't chart copper neither, but the thing you can guess about copper, just like silver did with gold, it was lagging a lot behind gold. Gold has a massive run, and silver was struggling below $30. And then once silver started to break the $30 mark, it started to rip, and it was very fast, very, very quick to go to 90 plus. I think copper is going to follow the exact same, and it's important to know that copper is used in like a lot of basically in everything, in all the everything that is related to electronics and to technology. Copper is used for it, and considering that we're starting to have a lot of shortage about like we had the RAM because of AI, then copper will definitely follow. And I think it's I don't know about the prices right now, because as I said, I really don't look at it. But if prices are still below important resistances, I think it's a very interesting investment. I don't know who asked the question. If you can say it again, but that was a very good comment. Oh, Blaze. Okay, Blaze. So
It was
Blaze,
Blaze,
I
yeah.
think it's a very good thing to talk about, because if you can check on your end, if you think that that copper is at an interesting price right now, then it's definitely worth having having some in your portfolio. Obviously, don't go all in thinking it's gonna pull out a gold run, but having some in your portfolio is definitely interesting because it's a commodity, but also it has a real use case. So yeah, I would say it's good, very good one pulled out by Blaze.
That's awesome. Thanks, Osbert. And I won't take any more of your time. I know you're recovering from an illness, so I'll let you get back to resting and recuperating. Appreciate your time. Thank you very much. I want to go to
My
Luke
pleasure.
now, and I want to circle back to crypto. Luke, you just had a live trading session there, maybe looking for some low time frame setups. How are you viewing the crypto market currently? How are you viewing this downside we've gotten over the last few days? And what is your outlook as we go into the last 10 days of January?
Oh, it's my outlook is still a little bit 50-50. I'm like, as a trader, I'm just looking at what's in the here and now and where the opportunities are to make money on like any day. So right now, I think like we took a little long in the trading room. I'd be more inclined to look for some short-term longs where prices are at the moment, but I'm not feeling bullish at all. I think in general, I mentioned this briefly earlier. I struggle to see a narrative for crypto now and something that can cut through a lot of the noise that we're getting externally. Like everything that could have played out within this cycle has played out. We've got the ETFs, we've got strategic reserves, we've had everything that you would normally expect from a cycle, and from a time perspective, it's gone on for 4 years, which is what you would normally expect anyway. So I would welcome a really nasty bear market right now. I think I would actually be much more happy with that than prices going up again, because I think if we are going to go back to 120k, go back to start talking about all-time highs, then I don't really know what basis we have to be going there, unless there's I just struggle to see a narrative. And I think the targets that we were saying, joking about a little bit earlier, of 35 to 55 or whatever it was, I wouldn't see that as a bad thing at all necessarily. I think if we're in this ecosystem and we're in crypto to exploit opportunity and to make money, I think prices coming back down to that point would actually be a really positive thing. I think the fact that Bitcoin isn't showing any strength as a safe haven asset and is still a speculative asset is a positive thing. It means we've got another narrative to go for again in the future. Whereas if it suddenly catches up with gold this cycle, then what does it do in the future again there? So yeah, if we actually want to make the most out of whatever happens after the next halving and with the years to come, then we should probably all be hoping for lower prices. Like the cycle did what it needed to do. Let's give it some time to cool off. Let's let gold continue to be the safe haven. Let's let the economy do whatever it's going to do in all of these countries. Let's whatever's going to happen with Greenland, like that can play out. It can drive prices lower, which is a good thing. In my opinion. So I'm bearish, but I'm actually positive about being bearish, because I think what that then will lead us to is much more opportunity in the future, chance to, but then that means we have another cycle. For me, if we were to do all of these things suddenly, it Bitcoin can compete with gold now. Where does it go from there? It still means that there's a lot more potential for the ecosystem as a whole. And yeah, so I would be happy to see lower. And I think I mentioned this in the chat, trading a bear market is good. Alts aren't going to do very much during a bear market. They're just going to go sideways and down. But from a technical perspective, as a day trader, bear markets are great. You can just show up every day. They're technical. They're pretty clean. And yeah, okay, we'll have the occasional days of panic and sell-offs and bad news and FUD and all of this kind of thing. But you get that during the bull markets as well. And when you have these big flushes during a bull market, when liquidity's really thin, then they're often a lot more damaging than what you get when things are already down. It's going to be a lot more painful for people if price is at 55k and it drops to 35 in a day and then recovers, than if it's 120 and drops to 80k. So yeah, like I say, I'm probably more of a bearish outlook unless we see something like a spark and a new narrative that comes from somewhere. But don't be afraid of it. I think it's good.
Optimistically bearish. I like that. I like that spin on things. But no, 2 points you just made there that really resonate with me. You said the trading conditions can be quite they can be actually quite clean in a bear market, and I couldn't agree more. Some of the nicest trading conditions I ever experienced were in like 2022 when we pulled back from that 2021 high. It was really like it was just a clean downtrend, and basically one of those moves where every spike could be shorted, and like it just seemed that at least 3 times a week there would be some random altcoin that would pump like 20 or 30% for no reason at all, and they were some of the easiest fades that I ever took, to the point actually that I got kind of destroyed in 2023 and 2024 when I tried to replicate those strategies. But another point you made is, how maximum downside is in a way like maximum opportunity, and that's something that I think really only becomes apparent once you've been in crypto for multiple cycles. And I say this as someone who has not been in crypto for multiple cycles. I've really only seen one full cycle at this point. But something that became apparent to me as kind of that cycle went on is that the real crazy money in crypto is made when you buy into projects that are at like absolute bear market bottoms. Like I think of a great example, and people will know how this story ends, but there's a kind of a happy medium point to it. I got in Render at the end of 2022. It was a post I made in my channel. I said, guys, I'm bullish on this coin. I'm in their Telegram. Seems like they're cooking something really interesting. I bought in at like 50 cent. That thing 14 months later was like $13. So that's a 26x that I was able to get into with decent size. Now, in the end, I ended up round tripping almost all those gains, but that's a story for another day. The point remains that there are so many crazy opportunities like that to get involved in good projects when everything is bottomed out and alts are minus 95% from the highs and everyone's giving up on crypto and liquidity is low and volume is low and volatility is dead. But actually, those are some of the most profitable, or some of the points of maximum profitability, because you can get in to projects and invest in teams that are woefully, criminally undervalued, and some of those coins will go to zero, but that's just the game you play. The idea is you're trying to invest in value before before the money comes flooding back into crypto, because it will happen again eventually. That's just the way this market works and the way market cycles work in general. Sorry, go on, Luke.
No, I was going to say, it's when you have those opportunities. I had a similar one with CAS for the last cycle. Like when no one's really talking about it, it becomes so much easier to find those projects because you're not getting hundreds of them thrown at your face on crypto Twitter every day. You just do a bit of research, find the ones that actually have quality behind them, buy in with some conviction, knowing that, right, okay, we've gone through 6 months, a year of bear market. Like, what's the worst that can happen? It goes to zero, but everything's kind of close to zero anyway. And then you just ride the wave for the next cycle. So it's in a way, it's a lot easier to find those projects. It's a lot easier to find those multiples, and it can be like in many ways easier to trade in the bear market. So yeah, I agree.
That's awesome. Thanks for that. I want to circle back to, so speaking of projects, speaking of new projects, speaking of investing in projects, I want to circle back to Jedi and get your take, Jedi, on the recent rug pulls we've seen on the DeFi side. We saw Cow, I think, was maybe a couple of days ago. I don't even know what that thing is. All I saw was people were shilling it, and literally like 6 hours later, it was at zero. We obviously saw the Trove launch. What a shitstorm that has been. It feels like people have been talking about that nonstop now for the last week or so. That coin also rogued. It was down minus 95 or 96% last time I checked from its launch price. And I also, a coin that I didn't include in the topic list, but just came to mind there, White Whale has dumped like 60 or 70%, right? Because one of the OG wallets, or one of the wallets that holds a huge amount of supply, like sold everything he owns except for like 1% or something. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts here? What are your takes here? Is this, people were talking about the trenches being so back and being revitalized. Is this kind of, was it short lived? Is this the kind of the end of that mini week long bull market we saw? Or what's your take on all of these coins rugging?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of, I think DeFi right now, and particularly what's happened on the Solana ecosystem, is essentially a mirror for where we are at in the cycle. So, Luke, you are going to get the wish that you were asking for earlier on. I think we are pretty much in a space where people are kind of like almost desperate to get as much money as they possibly can, because they know it's the end of the plentiful opportunity stage of this market. So I think Trove is a very, very good example. I think the others that you mentioned, they're more kind of meme coin orientated. They're more, I think it really is the shitcoin kind of trenches. That's what we're looking at right now. Even though, the idea behind the bags ecosystem and car being a part of that whole thing is to actually promote, fair launches and making it all fair and great. But the thing is that none of this stuff is actually fair. And the stuff that is fair, and there's a very interesting project at the moment, it's called Rise. And Rise essentially is built off the back. So it's a launch pad that's basically being built off the back of an idea and a project that was launched about 2 years ago called Nirvana. So the whole idea behind Nirvana is that there is a floor price, and everyone kind of like who knows anything about markets is going to turn around and say, well, there's no such thing as a floor price. Well, I can assure you there is. Why? Because every single token that gets minted in that protocol is actually paid for. There's no fresh money coming out of thin air. It's actually, that's where the biggest problem in crypto lies right now. You go and mint 1 billion tokens, but the underlying value does not exist. Whereas if you want to create a protocol that actually allows you to launch projects with an underlying value, then you've got to pay for every token in circulation like you would for pretty much any sound investment. But moving on, I think what's happened is that we've reached I think we've reached a crossroads now in just the general kind of like crypto market, and it's very simple. It's are you going to create value from thin air, or are you going to create value from revenue and from sound ideas? I think the biggest failure that Hyperliquid has experienced is not the fact that the team landed up selling tokens. If you're wondering why the price is sitting at $25 and $22 incoming, it's because guys want to make money and they're selling their tokens, they're cashing in. It's really that simple. The way that you avoid that is if you don't actually have more tokens than there is value locked into an idea or a business or even a revenue generating business. And unfortunately, that's what we've had to deal with, and that's what's been happening. And then on to Trove. I think the reason why Trove is such a big deal is because these guys actually presented a really good business idea. Essentially, perps markets for pretty much anything, from trading cards to real world assets to watches, like all the liquid stuff that you get out there. They offered essentially 5 to 10x leverage trading. They put out an opportunity for them to raise money, and they landed up oversubscribing it by 465%. So they I think they wanted 4.5 million. They raised 20, and then in the last 5 minutes of that auction, the devs went and changed the expiry date on the contract, and then people freaked out. They panicked. They basically let the thing close. Polymarket landed up putting out even a bet as to whether these guys were going to land up closing their ICO. And then it was full panic stations. Then a wallet related to Trove started selling all the hype that they were actually supposed to use. as their underlying kind of like liquidity basis. And they were exposed. Obviously, it's all on chain. And that's why it's gone to zero. And that's why those guys will never fucking recover, and they'll probably go to jail as well. So to summarize, we are possibly at the worst place that we could be in DeFi, but maybe also the best place, and just kind of like latching onto Luke's optimism around that. I think we need this. I think we need people to realize that the sustainability that tokens and token launches have at the moment are simply not sustainable, and we need to move beyond that. Apologize for the long-winded delivery.
No, that's a fantastic answer. That's really, really thorough. Really, always great to hear your take on that side of the market. Staying on topic, I also want to get your opinion on this, Purdue, because you're something of an altcoin expert. Lots of the trading that you do is on alts, maybe smaller cap pairs, away from the majors, which is it's always fascinating to see you trade coins that I've never even heard of. Was past tense, present tense. So I'm just curious to get your take on the state of the altcoin market today. Obviously, we've had very hyped launches like Pulse, like Aster, like LIT, and that will lead us into our next topic, which we're going to get into in 5 minutes. But I just want to talk about the charts and about the coins themselves. Are you finding it tough to navigate these current waters when it comes to trading altcoins? I know a lot of alts, particularly on the long side, are not giving the strength or the clarity of setup that we have had at previous times this cycle. So how are you navigating that? And do you think that is going to be, getting worse or getting better as we enter the remainder of Q1?
I mean, usually what you see is that money flows in certain times, like with the tariff news again now at the moment, is that you see that money is just flowing back to the king. It has always been like that, and it will always be like that, most probably, because people will long the most safe asset when things get uncertain. So for now, BTC is king, and there are not a lot of narratives to work with. So that's why I took my foot off the gas this week and last week, because there's basically, sometimes when TA is aligning for some altcoins, but the FA is not really working, or there's no big catalyst. There are just too many coins to actually base these only off TA. So I think it's best to stick to the majors for now until BTC dominance stops out, because that also broke above some really big levels. So I think what we're seeing at the moment is that money is going back to BTC. The only thing I would like to accumulate is hype, because I think it will be the chosen DEX, the chosen decentralized exchange that will stick even if we go into a bear market. So I'm really curious what is below 20 for hype. And that's about it. I think that the top 3 coins, Ethereum, BTC, and hype, will remain no matter what. And these are the coins I'm mostly focusing on if we get like a proper flush one more time going into tomorrow. So
That's awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, for now, no narratives. I'm really looking at. So
And I want to stay on that topic. So I want to pull on this thread a little bit. Something you just mentioned there. You said that hype is going to be the winner of the PerpDex game. You're bullish on hype token long term. I am also bullish on hype token long term, but I think that there are going to be multiple winners to the PerpDex game. I'm just curious to know what your thoughts are on maybe lighter, on the likes of Paradex, Variational, Nado, we've seen Pacifica. Like, do you have any kind of wider thoughts on this narrative, or is it something that maybe doesn't interest you so much? Especially as we go into kind of 2026, I think a lot of people are doing a lot of farming. I'm just curious to hear what your take is on that meta.
Usually when like the farming gets well known and people starting to recognize the benefits of farming, that's usually when a narrative dies. I think the farming will basically has been done after Lighter. I think many people banked on Lighter and on hype, but for now there are so many exchanges rolling out because they saw how popular it was and how many people were inclined to farm these points. Yeah, I think Nado will be the only good one because Kraken has a lot of money to actually build a proper product. But yeah, Paradex could be a nice one on the DEX, but I think it's not going to be as big as Hype or Lighter. Yeah, and they had some uncertainty with the nuke as well. So what I saw on X was that they had some complications on the with liquidity when we saw the dump on Sunday. So yeah, I don't know about the farming. I'm not really a big fan of them anymore after the big the big ones of Lighter and Hyperliquid.
Well, there's definitely an argument to say that we're getting closer to the end of that farming meta than we are
sure.
to the start. And actually, that's one of the reasons I'm a little bit skeptical about Nado, because Nado is talking about their TG being potentially Q1 2027. Now, I don't know what state the Perp X meta will be in by then, but 12, 13 months away, that's a long time, and a lot can change in the crypto market between now and then. So look, we will see, but I want to stay on that topic. And I'm gonna go to Jedi first. I want to get your thoughts on, we're talking about Paradex going down. It did go down for like 6 hours on, was it Sunday night or Monday? It was yesterday morning, Monday morning, quite early. They had an update, server update or something like that, blockchain update. And when it came back online, there were a few different issues. I remember looking at the exchange. I was actually awake at that time. Some coins went to zero. Guys got liquidated. Some guys got paid like thousands and thousands of dollars of funding. But anyway, they rolled the whole thing back to 5 minutes pre-update. And I guess my question, and this is a question I'm curious to know your take on, is it really a decentralized exchange if they can roll back like that? And like the thing is, these things happen with exchanges. Like, we've seen things like this happen with even the big exchanges in the past. But like, what does a team like Paradex need to do in order to, I suppose, restore user trust and kind of put the FUD to one side and move past this kind of event? Because at the end of the day, I mean, it's not a huge event, but when some, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, so everyone can hear you. Jedi, are you?
Jedi is just rambling in itself, in his mind.
Well, I might. He's recording a new podcast. He's gonna reconnect. So I'm gonna open that one to the panel. And if you don't have a take on this, that's completely fine as well. What are your thoughts on that? And I guess we can also kind of bring the LIT token into this discussion, and maybe ask the panel what do they think about the next big hyped token after hype, basically being down only. It looks off. Can you? Yeah, we can hear you now, Jedi.
Sorry, man. I actually, for some reason, you froze and I went offline. That's the weirdest thing.
No worries.
Just
No worries.
Just to answer your question, I think the argument in favor of Paradex at the moment is that they're still very much in alpha stage. Yes, they're dealing with people's real money, but you signed a disclaimer. Basically, they're saying that if there is an issue, it basically falls on you. I know that that's not really the point, but they are still very much in the formative stages of the development of their product. So I wouldn't be too critical about that, and especially if they are refunding and they're doing all the right things, I think that's fine. I mean, the whole idea around decentralization is definitely a worthy topic to actually get into, because I think that's the single most important aspect of this whole thing. Hyperliquid is still not entirely decentralized, by the way. I know this because when I was at Blockmates, we actually wanted to apply to set up nodes on their network, and they were very, very particular about who they let in and why they let them in, because Jeff wanted to have that control pretty much that first initial 2 years of Hyperliquid's life cycle. And it's not necessarily to be nefarious around the product. It's about being able to kind of make sure that everything is in place so that you can sort out all those bugs and all those issues early on. And then once you're established, once you've got a great foundation, you've got good TVL in there, then you can basically open it up for other operators. So I think it's just really important to understand that decentralization doesn't just arrive, generally speaking. It takes a long time to get to that point. Even Solana, I mean, they've rolled back Solana, I think maybe 3 times in its life cycle. It's gone offline 4 times, like for considerable amount of time. So that's something that you need to consider as well in light of the comparison between Solana and Ethereum. So Ethereum has had 100% uptime, by the way, in case you guys didn't know. It's never gone down. And that is because it was always a decentralized network that was reliant on miners and GPUs to take care of the security of that network. So proof of work is fundamentally the single most impressive design around creating a decentralized network. Unfortunately and fortunately, because of cost and all the rest of it, we've moved into a proof of stake, which doesn't allow you to be decentralized straight off the bat. It takes time. It takes effort, and it takes the right people to be on the network that complement the network before you can move into a space where you and I can start contributing. Anyways, I hope that answers your question.
It absolutely does. And I want to stay on that perpdex topic for a second. And I know you're probably sick to death of talking about it. However, I want to get your latest opinion on LIT token and this extreme downside price action that we've seen. It's, people are making jokes about inverse price discovery. It's worrying to me as someone who is invested in the perpdex meta for the rest of the year and going forward, and someone who is even beyond partnerships, someone who is bullish on the perpdex meta. It's worrying to see that the what is commonly referred to as the second biggest launch, or the second most hyped launch after Hyperliquid, doing so poorly. Now, it is early doors. It's very early. We're still in the first month post TG, and I don't think you can read a lot into that kind of price action. But we have seen launches like XPL, we have seen launches like Aster, we have seen launches like Monad recently that, to put it diplomatically, they don't inspire confidence in new launches into what seems to be quite a hostile altcoin market with limited liquidity and limited capital. So I'm curious to know what your take is on LIT token and on Lighter more generally going into the rest of the year.
So I think you've summarized it quite well in that you've got this potential darling of a project, because you've got Robinhood involved, you've got some serious investors behind it, like blue chip investors from a VC perspective, and then the guys have actually executed on what it is that they set out to do. The product's great, and furthermore, the other really positive kind of narrative around Lighter is that they have been kind of earmarked as the guys that are going to land up doing the majority of the RWAs. Once RWAs come on chain, we've heard NASDAQ yesterday come out and say we will be going 24/7 on chain for traditional markets. That's a fucking game changer. This is the reason why crypto was invented. It was from a alternative to Bitcoin. It was to allow for the free flow of capital and for us to be able to do the casino stuff into perpetuity 7 days a week. I don't know whether that's going to be a good thing. You raised the topic earlier on, but we'll wait and see. But getting on to Lighter and kind of why are we in this situation right now? I will refer back to what it is that I mentioned earlier on. People are getting free tokens. There's no incentive for them to actually go beyond that. So I believe, and yes, maybe this is a bit of a kind of a rude take on this, but these guys do airdrops and they land up freaking sending themselves 2% of the supply on wallets that are completely untraceable. It's very easy for them to do. I was exposed to a project actually recently where I landed up getting an idea that this is exactly what it is that they're going to do. They haven't launched yet, but when they do, I will make it well known as to what it is that I've heard in the past before. But this is what I suspect is happening. We'll do an airdrop. We'll just give ourselves 2 or 5 or 10% of the supply. No one will be the wiser. And then we'll just take care of our market makers and we'll just sell the token. And if it goes way below value, it doesn't matter, because we're locked in for the next 4 years and we'll just let it grind to a halt over the next 12 months, and then we'll bring in the market makers and we'll pump it back up again. So to answer your question more directly, Alan Lighter, I think that thing is probably going to take a while to bottom because the boys are paying for their sushi and strip club meals, and then once they've done doing that, there will come a time where it will bottom, and I think it will go straight back up again. So I think Lighter will be a decent investment to make, but it comes back to what it is that we were chatting about in Luke's stream, if I remember correctly, where he's saying like, you wait for bottoms, you pick up these things, and then you can do like a 10x on a coin or a 20x on a coin. You just got to be patient.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, Jedi. And I appreciate you spoken for about 25 minutes on this conversation so far. So thanks. I'll give your voice a rest now, but I appreciate your insight as always. I want to go to Osborne now. Osborne, what is your take? I know that you have spoken in the past about about Lighter in particular, but about PerpDex meta more generally. What is your take on, I suppose, on this current downside we're seeing in the LIT chart?
Yeah, it's going to be much more surface level than Jedi's take. Thank you, Jedi, by the way. It was super informative. But a simple thing is, it's I think you can make the link with the overall crypto industry. I mean, we had like a super product that is hyper liquid, and then now everyone is trying to copy. To copy Hyperliquid, and I think Lighter really created a solid product, especially since they want to bring equities and indices to be able to be traded directly on the PerpDex. I would argue that it's good for crypto because it will just make indices and equities much more popular, in my opinion. Instead of, because I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's so bullish for crypto." Just explain me how. Because besides just bringing more fees to the user, to the DEX, bringing more fees, bringing more users, so the DEX will win eventually. But how being able to trade Tesla on an exchange is bullish for Bitcoin? I don't really understand. Maybe there is some technical points or whatever, but the retail don't care. The retail doesn't care. So I don't think it's so bullish for crypto. Now talking about the DEX meta, it tells one thing, that even a product that is really great, like Lighter, you see the token going downside. Like it made a worse performance than XPL. Just to say it, if you compare the two charts, if we made a lot of fun about XPL, Lighter is making like worse. It tells one thing, is that people don't care about the product. They just wanted to farm the airdrop. They just wanted to make quick money because everyone is still thinking about putting out a hype airdrop that allowed many people to probably retire, or at least to be comfortable for many years. And everyone is trying to replicate that. I mean, like the users, the traders, etc. I'm not talking about the DEX themselves, but the users are willing to pull out a hype, and they're just gonna jump from one DEX to another. They don't really care about the product in the end. It's something that I think I said a few weeks ago when we had a roundtable and we talked about the DEXs. People are using DEXs just to farm airdrop lately. This is what brought a lot of users to these products. We should be, I think we must be honest, and not think it's because they are awesome and it's awesome to trade on the DEX. Now, whatever it is, Lighter, whatever it's Pacifica, PowerDex, it's that points meta that made DEXs so popular. And I don't want to say much about what's going to happen with the PowerDex airdrop or with the Nado airdrop that I'm farming myself, but I think eventually everything will end up like Lighter. If we make a comparison, I think Jedi can correct, but Hype was released at $1 and it went to 55, between 55 and $60. So basically it pulled out a 60x. And you check Lighter, that was supposed to be the hype killer, and it did what, like a 3x, and then it fell off a cliff ever since then. And that was super shield online, that was super hyped up. So what is going to happen to a Pacifica that nobody's talking about, what is going to happen to a Voyational or an Extended. I think it's going to be the same story.
Yeah, interesting take. And I wonder, that's something that I've been thinking about is how sustainable is this kind of points farming airdrop TG narrative, and how good is it for kind of like the long-term health of each individual decks? I mean, as we've seen, like, it worked for hype, but it so far has not necessarily worked for lighter. We saw a lot of wash trading, a lot of inflated volume metrics. We could be in for a similar thing with future dexes, but time will tell. I still remain bullish on the idea of perpetual future dexes, of this idea of decentralized trading, especially as more and more regulation comes into the space, and more and more exchanges are required to do things like KYC. I think that the perp dex solution, if we can call it that, makes a lot of sense in a kind of a very broad strokes crypto sense. But yeah, probably some teething issues to sort out before that happens. Victor.
Yes, hello everybody. Sorry for not being present for the first half of the roundtable, but my internet decided to not work. Anyway, yeah, my take on, well, lighter is specifically right now, but to some degree about all these airdrops is that so after the 10th of October, when we saw coins dumping 90% on a single day, right? How can you convince someone that just got airdropped a shit ton of tokens to hold them instead of selling them? In my opinion, anyone that's smart financially, and anyone that's not generally in here for the tech or super enthusiast about lighter like our friend Ali, like anyone who's here just to make money, the smartest decision for them will be to sell the airdrop because it was free money, and in the current context of the market, anything that you keep and anything that you own can go down a lot in a few hours, in a few days. So this is why I think that no launch has done well after the October dump, because there is no incentive for anyone to hold these things, um, or maybe you hold like 10%. But like I said, the smartest thing to do is just to sell. Like if we would have gotten these airdrops last year in January, that would have been a different story. Maybe people would have held because there would have been more optimism about the market in general. But now I don't see the point. I don't see any reason to hold these tokens. And yeah, I also agree with you two guys that it's gonna be very interesting to see what happens with the perp dexes after these farming periods end. Because of course they have a lot of volume now because everyone is farming points, farming XP. Who will prevail after these airdrops? And I think it will just be a few. It's not gonna be just hyper liquid. It's gonna be some others as well. I don't know which, but yeah, in general, I think we also discussed about this last week. But I'm bullish on the idea of perpdexes, but they still got some work to do on functionalities and UI and ease of use to be able to actually compete with central exchanges.
Yep, completely agree there on every point you made. Conscious that it's coming on 5 past. If Joey is still here, we're going to do a quick fire round on the questions that he asked in relation to engagement. So is Twitter engagement down right now? Yes, very much so. I would say that engagement now for the majority is like minus 50 or 60% compared to what it was a year ago. And a lot of content that used to do well, such as educational content, is doing far worse now. Whether that's an algorithm issue or just a general CT participation issue, I'm not sure. Probably a mix of both. But yeah, it's far more, it's like hot takes and witty quips and things like that do quite well, or memes. Educational content doesn't do that well. But we're also seeing a kind of a slight pushback now where, I'm seeing charts do quite well. Altcoin charts, still no one cares about, but Bitcoin charts and Ethereum charts, people do tend to care. Crypto Twitter sentiment, I would say, is pretty close to being in the gutter. Maybe not the worst it's been, but I would say, yeah, close to bottom 5 of the time that I've been in crypto the last few years. Not great, but I think that sentiment is not something I pay too much attention to anyway. Big account sentiment, it's tough to tell. It seems that most of the big accounts I follow are still relatively active, but there are a ton that have just gone silent, or at least reduced their activity levels significantly. But maybe someone else can offer a better take on that. And Chroma in the last 2 months, is it on a decline? I mean, all paid groups are actually down considerably since 10th of October. I was chatting to one of the guys on our WAP team about this. He said that some groups are minus 60% membership. A big group that I'm sure you are all aware of went from 1,700 members in Q4 last year to now 800 members. So more than half. And their churn rate, which is the rate at which members don't renew their membership, went from being like 12% to being almost 30%. By contrast, I mean, Chroma, we're down, I would say, maybe 15 to 20% in terms of membership, but very, very much bucking the trend that a lot of other groups seem to be falling victim to. I think that is a testament to the hard work that the team is doing. It's one thing that I've been happy to see is that despite the market conditions, despite the downside we've seen in the market over the last couple of